boys and girls, it's me, Miss Forstall, and I'm here to read to you one of the first books that I love reading from the Beatrice Potter collection, and this one is called The Tale of Peter Rabbit. She wrote a bunch of these books about Peter and his siblings and cousins and a lot of other animals in the forest. The cool thing about these books, they were written over 100 years ago. It was first published in 1902. Wow. So I really love that this is an old classic. You'll hear sometimes some old-fashioned language in there. She uses presently often and a few other words. But this is going to be the first one I'm going to start with. I like to start with this because I don't know about you, but with spring here, I'm seeing tons of bunnies in the neighborhood, especially the baby bunnies. So it just kind of makes me think of this story. All right, hope you enjoy it. Let's begin. The Tale of Peter Rabbit. Once upon a time, there were 4 little bunnies, and their names were Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. They lived with their mother in a sandbank underneath the root of a very big fir tree. "Now, my dears," said old Mrs. Rabbit one morning, "you may go into the fields or down the lane, but don't go into Mr. McGregor's garden. Your father had an accident there. He was put in a pie by Mr. McGregor." Wow, so his dad got cooked and was put in a pie. "Now run along and don't get into mischief. I am going out." Then old Mrs. Rabbit took a basket and her umbrella and went through the wood to the baker's. She bought a loaf of bread and 5 currant buns. Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail, who were good little bunnies, went down the lane to gather blackberries. But Peter, well, he was very naughty and ran straight away to Mr. McGregor's garden and squeezed under the gate. First, he ate some lettuce and some French beans, and then he ate radishes. And then, feeling rather sick, he went to look for parsley. Kind of reminds me of how dogs like to eat grass when they feel a little sick to their stomach, to settle their tummies. But round the end of the cucumber frame, whom should he meet but Mr. McGregor? Mr. McGregor was on his hands and knees planting out young cabbages, but he jumped up and ran after Thief, waving a rake and calling out, "Stop, thief!" Peter was most dreadfully frightened. He rushed all over the garden, for he had forgotten the way back to the gate. He lost one of his shoes among the cabbages and the other shoe among the potatoes. After losing them, he ran on 4 legs and went faster, so I think he might have gotten away altogether if he had not unfortunately run into the gooseberry net. And he got caught by the large buttons of his jacket. It was a blue jacket with brass buttons, quite new. There's his cute little jacket. Peter gave himself up for lost and shed big tears. But his sobs were overheard by some friendly sparrows, who flew to him in great excitement and implored him to exert himself. So what do you think implored means? Think about that. But Mr. McGregor came with a sieve, which he intended to pop upon the top of Peter. But Peter wriggled out just in time, leaving just his jacket behind. And he rushed into the tool shed and jumped into a can. It would have been a beautiful thing to hide in if it had not had so much water in it. Mr. McGregor was quite sure that Peter was somewhere in that tool shed, perhaps hidden underneath a flower pot. He began to turn them over carefully, looking underneath each. Presently, Peter sneezed. "Hachoo!" Mr. McGregor was after him in no time. Oh boy. Hopefully Peter can get away. And tried to put his foot upon Peter, who jumped out a window, upsetting 3 plants. The window was too small for Mr. McGregor, and he was kind of tired of running after Peter. He went back to his weeds. Peter sat down to rest. Oh, he was out of breath and trembling with fright, and he had not the least idea which way to go. Also, he was very damp from sitting in that can. After a time, he began to wander about, going lippity-lippity, not very fast, and looking all around. He found a door in a wall, but it was locked, and there was no room for a fat little rabbit to squeeze underneath. An old mouse was running in and out over the stone doorstep, carrying peas and beans to her family in the wood. Peter asked her the way to the gate, but she had such a large pea in her mouth that she could not answer. She only shook her head at him. And Peter, he began to cry again. Then he tried to find his way straight across the garden, but he became more and more puzzled. Presently, he came to a pond where Mr. McGregor filled his watering cans. A white cat was staring at some goldfish. She sat very, very still. But now and then the tip of her tail twitched as if it were alive. Peter thought it best to go away without speaking to her. He had heard about cats from his cousin, Little Benjamin Bunny. He went back toward the tool shed, but suddenly, quite close to him, he heard the noise of a hoe. Screech, scratch, screech, scratch. Peter scuttered underneath the bushes. But presently, as nothing happened, he came out and climbed upon a wheelbarrow and peeped over. The first thing he saw was Mr. McGregor hoeing onions. His back was turned toward Peter, and beyond him was the gate. Peter got down very quietly off the wheelbarrow and started running as fast as he could along a straight walk behind some black currant bushes. Mr. McGregor caught sight of him at the corner, but Peter did not care. He slipped underneath the gate and was safe at last in the wood outside the garden. But Mr. McGregor, he hung up that little jacket and the shoes for a scarecrow to frighten the blackbirds. Peter never stopped running or looked behind him till he got home to the big fir tree. He was so tired that he flopped down upon the nice soft sand on the floor of the rabbit hole and shut his eyes. His mother was busy cooking. She wondered what he had done with his clothes. It was the second little jacket and a pair of shoes that Peter had lost in a fortnight. It gives us a kind of a clue about Peter and his character when we think about character traits, what he might be like. I am sorry to say that Peter was not very well during the evening. His mother put him to bed and made some chamomile tea, and she gave a dose of it to Peter. 1 tablespoon to be taken at bedtime. But Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail had bread and milk and blackberries for supper. The end. Well, boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed the tale of Peter Rabbit, and I will see you again soon and read you another Beatrice Potter story. Bye.